Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah here. We are holding in Mishnah Berurah Chel Gimel, and Mirza Hashem, today we will be learning Daf Samach Daled Amud Aleph. We are continuing to learn Hilchos Shabbos, and we pick up today on Samach Gimel Amud Beis, 2 lines off the top in the Shulchan Aruch, Siman Reish Pei Hey Sif Daled. Our learning should be a schus for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael and the student about Sarah by Shivya. Haimdim bein bayom bein bayabasha hamakim merachim aleihim ve'etziam yitzar lervacha me'afel le'uru mishiba le'geula hashta b'galav zman kriv and emar amen. Our learning should be a schus refuah shalema for Tzvi ben Leah Miriam, for Daniel ben Naomi, and for Moshe Meir ben Esther Fradel. Our learning should also be a schus for Yisrael ben Rachel, Yonis ben Michal, Yoel ben Michal. The Rebbeinu Shem should watch over them, and together with all of our brothers and sisters who find themselves in harm's way, B'chol Makom Shehem. So here in Siman Reish Pei Hey, we've been learning the very interesting halachas of Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum, what we colloquially known as being Maver Sedra. So we pick up today 2 lines off the top in the Shulchan Aruch, Samach Gimel Amud Beis, Siman Reish Pei Hey Sif Daled, says the Mechaber. Mitzvah min hamuvchar would be the best way to perform the mitzvah would be sheyashlam isa kaidem sheyochal b'Shabbos, that you should finish being Maver Sedra, you should finish Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum before you eat the Suda Shabbos morning. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Eis Katan Tes, sheyashlam isa. The Chidiyisa b'Medrash. This would be in accordance with what we learned in the Medrash. Shetziva Rebbe Esbanav. We find that Rebbe told his children, "Al toichlu lechem b'Shabbos." You should not eat bread on Shabbos. Now, very clearly, when it says that you shouldn't eat bread, clearly this means that you shouldn't make the Suda. So this is not, you shouldn't eat anything. Doesn't mean that you can't come home and make Kiddush and have something to eat. But you should not eat the Suda. Al teichlu lechem b'Shabbos, ad shetigmaru es kol parsha, before finishing the entire parsha, before finishing Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum on that week's Sedra. When we come up with Pashut, nevertheless, it's obvious, says the Chavetz Chaim, de'ein la'akev machmaseh ha'achila ad achar chatzos. However, says the Chavetz Chaim, don't take this too far. If you're behind at being Maver Sedra, don't say that you're going to push off the Shabbos day Suda until after Chatzos, because you can't have the Suda before you completed Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum. U'ketal b'Siman Reish Pei Ches, where we learn that you're not allowed to fast on Shabbos past Chatzos. That's a halacha. You're not allowed to fast on Shabbos until after Chatzos. And says the Mishnah Berurah, Dezeu rak mitzvah ba'alma, the requirement to finish Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum before the Shabbos morning Suda, that's not me'ikar adin. That's mitzvah min hamuvchar. The best thing would be finish it before the Shabbos Suda. If you didn't finish it before the Shabbos Suda, you still have time. We're going to see how much time, but you still have time to finish Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum after the Suda. So don't push off the Suda and run afoul of the halacha that says that you're not allowed to fast until after Chatzos. Says the Chavetz Chaim, u'lechatchila me'anachayin, lechatchila would be proper. Im loy kar Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum be'erev Shabbos. If you did not complete Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum on erev Shabbos, lahashkim b'Shabbos b'boker, you should get up early Shabbos morning. V'likraya Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum kaidam halichasei lebeis hakneses, and finish your Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum before you go to shul. Kain Issa ba'Or Zerua Reish Hilchos Shabbos. We find this in the Or Zerua in the beginning of Hilchos Shabbos. V'chein mashma b'Talmidei Rabbeinu Yoina yesh brachas ayin sham. And we also find an indication like this in the Rabbeinu Yoina in the beginning of Masechtas Brachas Daf Daled Amud Beis. Now we have to remember that one of the things that are at work over here is, if you look back at the very beginning of the Siman, it's not the Lashon. I thought it was Lashon in the Mechaber. It's not. Yeah, in Mishnah Berurah Eis Katan Aleph, the Lashon of the Chavetz Chaim is that a person is b'chuyev d'tzarich lahashlim parshiyosav im hatzibur. The requirement of Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum is, so to speak, to complete your learning of the Sedra, to complete your Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum im hatzibur, together with the tzibur. The tzibur is laning the parsha this week. You're supposed to complete your Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum im hatzibur. So if you finish it before you sit down to the Suda, you are finishing it with the tzibur, because when did the tzibur finish? The tzibur finished by Shacharis in Shul. So okay, they finished it then, if you finish it before you sit down to eat the Suda, that's called that you are mashlim, you completed the Sedra together with the tzibur. They did it by davening this morning, and you're also doing it davening a little bit after davening, but you're doing it before you sit down to eat the Suda. Okay. That's also why, by the way, what we've seen so far in this Siman, we saw different minhagim. We saw brought down, do it on Erev Shabbos, do it on Shabbos. There are those that say that bedafka you should complete Shtay Mikra Vecha Targum on Shabbos, not on Erev Shabbos. You should complete it on Shabbos so that you're mashlim Parsha Yosef im hatzibur. Different minhagim b'shainim. The most important thing is make sure you're Marvis Sedra and make sure you finish it on time. Okay, now let's go to the next halacha here in the Mechaber. So on the bottom line here, near the beginning of the line, says the Mechaber, V'im loy hishlim kaidem achila. Let's say you did not complete Shtay Mikra Vecha Targum before the Shabbos Suda. Yashlim achar achila. You should still complete it after you eat the Suda, ad ha-mincha, but finish before mincha. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Yud, bottom line, ad ha-mincha. Why ad ha-mincha? Demi mincha ulamayla, because from mincha and going forward, maschil and atzibur likrai parshas hashavua haba. What happens by mincha Shabbos afternoon? You start laning next week's parsha. So by me, I'm recording this share on Masi Shabbos, Parshas Chayesara. So yes, this morning we laned, Toldos, not Chayesara, Parshas Toldos. So this morning we laned Parshas Toldos, but by Mincha, we already started Vayetze. So starting Mincha Shabbos afternoon is already the Zman, so to speak, of Vayetze. So we want you to finish being Marvis Sedra Parshas Toldos before Vayetze starts. So finish before Mincha. Says the Mechaber, the last few words here on Samach Gimel Amud Beis, V'yesh Oimrim ad Revi'i b'Shabbos. Some say that you have a longer period of time when you could complete Marvis Sedra. If you didn't complete Shtay Mikra Vecha Targum by before the Shabbos Suda, you didn't finish it Shabbos afternoon, you didn't finish it Motzei Shabbos, you still have Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. You could still be Marvis Sedra, the previous week's Parsha, on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Why would that be? Says the Mishnah Berurah Katan Yud Aleph, Ad Revi'i b'Shabbos, the Shloisha Yamim HaRishonim, because the first 3 days of the week, Shayachen Adayin Ktsas L'Shabbos She'avar. They are Shayach, they belong somewhat. They're somewhat connected to the previous Shabbos. Ukidlakaman b'Siman Reish Tzadik Tes Sivav Legabe Havdalah. We have a halachic precedent to this when it comes to the halachas of Havdalah. Excuse me. When it comes to Havdalah, what happens if somehow you forgot to make Havdalah Motzei Shabbos? You could still make Havdalah on Sunday, you could still make Havdalah on Monday, you could still make Havdalah on Tuesday. So the first 3 days of the week still belong somewhat. They're still attached somewhat to the previous Shabbos. So you didn't complete being Marvis Sedra, you could still do it Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Says the Mishnah Berurah here, Lachein b'di'eved yachal lahashlim. It's zicha not lechatchila. Lechatchila, you should have finished it on time. You didn't finish, you could still finish Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Continues the Mechaber with an even bigger kula. V'yesh oimrim, there are those say ad shmini atzeres, that you could finish being Marvis Sedra all the way until Shmini Atzeres. Says the Ramah, Dahainu b'simchas Torah, meaning for us in Chutz La'aretz, it means that you could finish being Marvis Sedra all of the parshas of the week, until all of the parshas of the year, until Simchas Torah. Sha'az mashlimim hatzibur. What happens at Simchas Torah? On Simchas Torah, the tzibur lanes v'zais habracha, and they make a siyum, they're mashlim kol ha-Torah kula. They make a siyum on chamisha chumshei Torah. So, again, what's the chiyuv of Shtay Mikra Vecha Targum? La'olam mashlim adam parshiyosav im hatzibur. You have to complete your laning, your study of the parshas of the year, you have to complete them im hatzibur. Well, when does the tzibur make a siyum? Al Chamisha Chumshei Torah, Simchas Torah. So you know what? You're behind. You weren't Mavisedra Parshas Bereshis. According to this opinion here, this last opinion here in the Mechaber, you have all the way until next year, Simchas Torah. You could make up for the fact that you missed Parshas Bereshis all the way in the beginning of the year. You could still make it up because the tzibur still wasn't Messiah Chamisha Chumshei Torah. So if you do it now, you're still okay. Obviously, this is a big kula. Says the Mishnah Berurah Cut Yud Beis Ad Shmini Atzeres Hainu Be'eretz Yisrael. The Mechaber lived in Eretz Yisrael. The Mechaber lived in Tzfas. So the Mechaber said Shmini Atzeres because in Eretz Yisrael there's only one day Yom Tov. The second day is Yom Tov, so to speak, of Sukkot. There's only one day. There's Shmini Atzeres. They lein v'zayis habracha on Shmini Atzeres. That's why the Mechaber said Shmini Atzeres. Shesham oisin Shmini Atzeres rak yom echad. The Goyim Atzibur oz hasefer Torah. That's in Eretz Yisrael when the Messiah called Torah kula. Ulakach, and therefore b'di'even mikri ad yom hahu mashlim parshiyosav im hatzibur. The reason you could do it until then is because that's still called being mashlim parshiyosav im hatzibur. But absolutely, it's a davar pashut, says the Chavetz Chaim. Lichatchila, you need to finish being Maris Sedra on Shabbos, at least before Mincha. You have to finish being Maris Sedra. The Chavetz Chaim says that we should not use any of these kulas lichatchila. These are big b'di'evets. Excuse me. Ois Cotton Yud Gimel, says the Mishnah Berurah, Sha'oz mashlim an atzibur. The reason you get this kula to be mashlim still by Shmini Atzeres in Eretz Yisrael or Simchas Torah in Chutz La'aretz is because that's when the tzibur is being Messiah the Torah, says the Mishnah Berurah. But remember, v'yesh lo likrois oz shnai mikra v'echa targum. If you have some shnai mikra v'echa targum to catch up on from during the year, and you want to sit down, Shmini Atzeres, Simchas Torah, you want to finish before the tzibur lanes v'zayis habracha, remember, you still have to do twice mikra and once targum. U'deloi ka'isa chekayrin mikra l'chud. Says the Chavetz Chaim, there were some people who wanted to take advantage of this kula. They sat down, they missed Parshas Truma, they sat down and they laned Parshas Truma. Okay, that's mikra once. That's not Shai Mikra V'Echa Targum. You got to do the Mikra twice and the Targum. Targum. If you only do the Mikra once, first of all, you only did Mikra once, not twice. Now you'll say, well, B'di'eved, we learned earlier, I could be Yaitza one time of Mikra, this that I listened to the Baal Koreh in Shul. But you're still missing Targum. You didn't do Targum. So you want to catch up, you got to make sure to do Shtai Mikra V'Echad Targum. Says the Mechaber, Sif Hey, second line down, Samach Daled Amud Aleph. Yochel likrois haparsha shnai mikra ve'echad targum b'shas kriyas HaTorah. Very big chiddush. The Mechaber says over here that really you could sit down, and he's quoting this from a Mordechai in the name of the Arzaruah. You're behind on shnai mikra ve'echad targum. You come to Shul Shabbos morning. They take out the Sefer Torah, they bring it to the Bima, they start Kriyas HaTorah. You could sit by your seat and you could do Shnai Mikra V'Echad Targum while the Tzibur is involved in Kriyas HaTorah in laning. Says the Ramah, V'ayin Le'el Siman Kuf Mem Vav. Let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cutting your dollar b'shas Kriyas HaTorah. So the Chavetz Chaim cautions us right away. U'b'siman Kuf Mem Vav b'Magen Avram Sif Cotton Hay. If you take a look at Siman Kuf Mem Vav in the Magen Avram, Hevi b'Shem Hashla, he brings down the Shla Shem Machmir Bazeh, who's very machmir when it comes to this, and says, no, you don't be doing Shnai Mikra V'Echad Targum in the middle of laning. Ela HaKol Tzrichin L'Shmaya HaKriya Mipi HaShliach Tzibur. You got to listen to the laning. You can't be busy doing your Maris Sedra during laning. You have to listen to the Baal Koreh by laning. V'cheinu das hagra shehuva b'sefer ma'aseh Rav. This was also the opinion of the Gra. Ditzarech lishmaya kol teva v'teva. You have to listen to every single word of the Kriyas HaTorah. V'lira is b'chumish, and you have to do it when you're looking into a chumish. V'lo yisayeya la'koreh klal. And don't be helping out the Baal Koreh. In other words, don't lane together with the Baal Koreh. Sit, follow in the Chumash, and listen to the Kriyas HaTorah. Umashma, and it is implied from this gra, shetafsu ha'ikr kidas ha'shibale leket, that they paskin like the shibale leket, who said b'shem rabbi v'haram shehuva ba'agos maimini, ubebeis Yosef sham derak ben gavra legavra mutter. It's only ben gavra legavra. It's only between aliyas when the gabbai is busy making a Mishnah Berurah. You're not allowed to talk during that time, but you know what? You're allowed to be mavisedra. That you could do. You want to know what you could do ben gavra legavra when you're waiting for the gabbai to finish all the Mishnah Berurahs? You could do shtay mikra ve'chatargum, but not during the laning. During the laning, you need to listen. And by the way, the Mishnah Berurah over here also is very careful to let us know. Remember that the Kriyas HaTorah is a davar shebekdusha that requires a minyan. So for sure, we have to make sure that there are at least 10 people that are listening and paying attention to the Kriyas HaTorah. It's a davar shebekdusha that requires a minyan. By the way, I'll also have you know that Rav Moshe Zechet Tzadik V'Kadosh Levracha, who knew everything about peh, right? He sat by the bima in his older years. He sat next to the bima. He would relocate his seat because he sat up in the front. But for Kriyas HaTorah, he would come. They would make a seat for him in MTJ on the Lower East Side. His desk was right next to the bima. In Yeshiva Staten Island also, right in front of the bima, there was a step. Right over that step, that's where the Yeshiva Zatzal sat by Kriyas HaTorah, and he had a chumash, and he followed in the chumash. He followed the Kriyas HaTorah with his finger on the place, and he sat there and he followed the laning. So if that's what Rav Moshe did by Kriyas HaTorah, following inside in the chumash, I think everybody understands there's no excuse for a regular person who doesn't know it Baal Peh to be walking around or looking around during Kriyas HaTorah. No, you should be following in a chumash, paying attention and listening to the Kriyas HaTorah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, nevertheless, Nira, we just had the Gra who said that you should follow in the chumash, you should listen to the Kriyas HaTorah, and the Gra said, V'lo yisayeh al hakoyrei. You shouldn't lane along together with the Baal Koreh. Literally, the words mean you shouldn't help the Baal Koreh. But the Mishnah Berurah says, nevertheless, it would seem to me, the likroi balachash mila b'mila im hashliach tzibur, that to lane along with the shliach tzibur quietly, ein lahachmir bazeh. You don't have to be machmir not to do that. That's actually a good thing to do, says the Mishnah Berurah. A lot of people read quietly along with the Baal Koreh because that adarabah, that helps them listen to the Baal Koreh. That makes them concentrate on the Kriyas HaTorah and follow along word by word in the Chumash. The Magen Avraham says that that's actually a big lechatchila. You should lane together with the Baal Koreh because that helps you concentrate and focus on the words of the Kriyas HaTorah. And indeed, the Chavetz Chaim says many achronim write that as well. The Ramah sent us to Siman Kuf Mem Vav. Siman Kuf Mem Vav. The Sham Masika Mechaber B'Sif Beis. Over there, the Mechaber concludes in Siman Kuf Mem Vav Sif Beis. The Nochain Lahamedaktik B'Dvarav Lechaven Daitoi L'Shama Mipi HaKoreh. Over here in Sif Hey, the Mechaber says a very big chiddush, and he says that you could do Maris Sedra in middle of the laning. But the Ramah points out to us that in Siman Kuf Ben Vav Siv Beis, the Mechaber says that the proper thing to do is Lechaven Daitoi L'Shama Mipi HaKoreh, to concentrate on listening to the laning from the Baal Koreh. And the reason for the Mechaber over there, very clearly, is because the Mechaber is worrying about the opinions that the Mishnah Berurah just quoted in Ois Katan Yon Daled, who hold that no, you can't be Maris Sedra in the middle of laning. You need to be listening to the laning, not being busy doing your Shtay Mikra ve'echad Targum. Says the Mechaber Sif Vav, 3 lines down, Samach Daled Amud Aleph. Melamdei tinoikos, rabbeim that teach chumash to young children, ein tzrichem lachzor v'likros haparsha b'Shabbos. They don't have to do the shnayim mikra or the echad targum. They don't have to be mavis edra on Shabbos. Now, right away, you have to understand, we're talking over here about melamdei tinoikos who teach the sedra. They're teaching the parsha of the week to the talmidim, to the students. So the whole Shabbos, the whole week, what were they doing? The whole week, they were learning the Chumash and explaining the Chumash to the Talmidim. Now, while they do that, they're going to say the psukim twice, right? Vaydaber Hashem Moshe Lemar, and Hashem spoke to Moshe. They're learning with the little kids. So they're singing the Chumash, they're saying the Chumash, repeat it, this, that, and they're also explaining it. They're not just teaching. Vaydaber Hashem, and Hashem spoke, El Moshe to Moshe Lemar, saying. No, they're also going to explain the Chumash that they're learning. Whatever they're learning about, they're going to explain it. So says the Mechaber, essentially, they're being Mekayim, Shnai Mikra Vecha Targum in their job. As part of their teaching, they're doing Shnai Mikra Vecha Targum. So they don't have to go home and do Shnai Mikra Vecha Targum over again. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Cotton Tezayin. Balam de Tinoikos. The Chavetz Chaim points out, but the Dafka Bimeim, that was true back in their days, Shahayu Loimdim Pirush HaMikra Im HaTinoikos. They were explaining the Chumash to the Talmidim. Ulakach yoitzin bazeh gam yidei targum ukidala el b'sif beis, and that's why by teaching the Talmidim they're being mekayim the requirement of targum. Because remember what we've learned previously: the requirement of targum is not a chiyuv that you need to daven the words of targum okulos. The chiyuv of targum is that you need to do shnayim mikra, but you also need a pirush. You need to learn the explanation of the Chumash. That's why the Mechaber said you could be Yotzei Shnai Mikra Vecha Targum with Rashi, because Rashi explains all the Chumash. So explains the Mishnah Berurah here, when the Mechaber says that the B'lamdei Tinoikos don't have to do Shnai Mikra Vecha Targum, that's because they were teaching the Chumash and explaining the Chumash to the students. And by doing that, they were being Yotzei Targum. Aval L'Meloimet Pirush HaMilus L'Chud. But if the Rebbe is like, I don't know, a pre-1A Rebbe, and he's only teaching the words, all he's doing is translating. He's not giving any elucidation. Lo yotze yidei targum. By doing that, you're not being yotze the chiyuv of targum. You might be doing shnai mikra, but you're not getting targum. So then you're not yotze being mavisedra. Elash de pa'amim mikra. The only thing you're going to accomplish is you're going to get the shnai mikra, the recitation of the text of the psukim twice. That you'll get. But you're not being Mekayim the Chiv of Targum, so you're going to have to sit down and do the Targum. The Bevadai Kara Imatinoika Shnei Pamim, any Rebbe worth his salt is definitely going to have read the Psukim at least 2 times, so Shnei Mikra he's going to get. But Echat Targum he's not going to get. V'lachein tzarich learn Targum ba'atzmai. So he's going to have to make sure to sit down on his own and do Targum. And he brings this down from the Machzah Shekel, v'chein mitzadet hapri megodim. Ois cotton yud zayin. The Mechaber said the Malamdei Tinoikos ein tzrichin. They don't have to do Shtay Mikra v'Echat Targum. Now, the Mishnah Berurah makes a very interesting diuk in the Mechaber over here. A lot of people come and they ask the question. We know that most people, when they're Marvis Sedra, they lane the psukim with the trup. Is that required? Do you have to lane the psukim with the trup in order to be Yosef Shnai Mikra Vecha Targum? The Chavetz Chaim brings a raya from here that you do not have to. Says the Mishnah Berurah Cotton Yud Zayin Mikan. We see from this halacha, from the fact that the Mechaber is saying that the Rebbe who's teaching the Talmidim could be Yotze Shnayim Mikra from teaching the psukim, and Targum, if he explains it, he could be Yotze Shnayim Mikra Vecha Targum. The Rebbe doesn't lane the psukim to the Talmidim with the trup. So you see from here, says the Mishnah Berurah, Mikan, Shenigon Ataimim Eina Ma'akiv L'gavi Shnayim Mikra Vecha Targum. The trup is not required. It's not Ma'akiv. Now, it is brought down that it is a praiseworthy thing to do it together with the trup, but it's zicha not Ma'akiv. Okay, moving on to Siv Zayin. Says the Mechaber, 3 lines down near the end of the line. Ein tzarich likrois parshas Yom Tov. We know you have laning in shul on Shabbos. You also have laning in shul on Yom Tov. Is there an inyan of Shnai Mikra ve'Echat Targum on the Yom Tov laning? So when it comes to Shavuos, and we're going to lane in shul the Aseret HaDibros, we're going to lane from Parshas V'eschadal, and we're going to lane Kabbalas HaTorah. Do we need to do Shtay Mikra Ve'Echat Targum on the Yom Tov laning? Shvi Shal Pesach, do we have to do Shtay Mikra Ve'Echat Targum on Oz Yashir? Says the Mechaber, no. Ein Tzarech Likrois Parshas Yom Tov. You don't have to do Shtay Mikra Ve'Echat Targum for the Yom Tov lanings. Says the Mishnah Berurah Cotton Yud Ches. Ein Tzarech. What the Mechaber wants to say is, She'ein Tzarech Likrois La'atzmai Shtay Mikra Ve'Echat Targum. You don't need to sit down and do Shtay Mikra Ve'Echat Targum on the Yom Tov laning before Yom Tov. Why not? Very simple, says the Mishnah Berurah. The point over here of being Maver Sedra is we learned earlier that Moshe Rabbeinu was misakin for Klal Yisrael that we should lane all of Chumshei Torah over the year. There's another chiyuv that not only should you hear it from the Baal Kairei in Shul, you should also do it yourself, Shtay Mikra Vechatargum. Now, you're going to do all of Chamisha Chumshei Torah by being Maver Sedra, the Sedra of the week, every week. So you're going to do Parshas Beshalach, Shtay Mikra Vechatargum, so you're going to do Oz Yoshir, right? Shtay Mikra Vechatargum. You're going to do Parshas Yisro, you're going to do Parshas Ve'eschanan, so you're going to do the Aseres HaDibros, Shtay Mikra Vechatargum. Why do you have to do it over again on Shavuos? Why do you have to do Oz Yoshir over again on Shvi Shal Pesach? That's why there's no inyan of Shtay Mikra Vechatargum for Yom Tov laning. Totally not required. Now, the very, very interesting Mishnah Berurah over here, very interesting to me how the Chavetz Chaim wrote this. This needs a backstory. So let's just pause for a second over here. Let's realize, when do we lane V'zayis HaBracha? V'zayis HaBracha is the only Sedra, it's the only Parsha that is not specifically laned on a Shabbos. Every other Sedra of Chamisha Chumshei Torah has a Shabbos. Not so V'zayis HaBracha. If Simchas Torah in Chutz La'aretz falls out on Tuesday, you're going to lay V'zayis HaBracha on Tuesday. Now, it could be that you'll, not in Chutz La'aretz. In Chutz La'aretz, Simchas Torah doesn't fall out on Shabbos, right? So it's not going to happen on Shabbos. But it's during the week. So Simchas Torah fall out on a Tuesday or later on a Tuesday. So V'zayis HaBracha doesn't have a Shabbos. So now comes along the question, when should you be Maver Sedra V'zayis HaBracha? Now let's remember what we've learned until now. Until now we've learned, when could you start being Maver Sedra the coming Shabbos' Parsha? We learned you could start after the previous Shabbos' Mincha, because Shabbos afternoon by Mincha, like today by Shachris we laned Parshas Toldos, by Mincha we laned Vayetze. So the Tzibur already started laning Vayetze. So we could already start being Maver Sedra Parshas Vayetze now, right? That's what we learned previously. But we also learned, brought down from the Ari HaKadosh, the Ari HaKadosh said that you should be Maver Sedra on Erev Shabbos. So we learned you could be Maver Sedra already, the Makaber said, on Sunday. And the Mishnah Berurah told us, Lav Dafka Sunday, you could already start Shabbos afternoon. Once it's after Mincha Shabbos afternoon, you already started laning next week's Parsha, you could already start being Maver Sedra. That's what the Makaber said. But we saw brought down from the Ari HaKadosh, the Ari said, no, you shouldn't start so early. You should start on Erev Shabbos. Okay. Now the Ari is Lishitasai. The Ari follows that opinion, and he talks about V'zayis HaBracha. And he says, when's the right time to start being Maver Sedra Parshas V'zayis HaBracha? Says the Ari, I'll tell you when. Erev Shmini Atzeres. Now, what you have to realize right away is that the Ari HaKadosh also lived in Eretz Yisrael. The Ari also lived in Tzfas. So by the Ari, there was Simchas Torah Shmini Atzeres, there was only one day. Right? So you laned V'zayis HaBracha on Shmini Atzeres. Said the Ari, when's the right time to be Maver Sedra V'zayis HaBracha? Erev Shmini Atzeres. Now, what's Erev Shmini Atzeres? Erev Shmini Atzeres is Hoshana Rabbah. Okay, so you have an Ari. The Ari says, V'zayis HaBracha, when do you start? So just like I told you all year long, the proper time to be Maver Sedra is Erev Shabbos. So when are you Maver Sedra Parshas Vayetze? Erev Shabbos Parshas Vayetze. When are you Maver Sedra Parshas Toldos? Erev Shabbos Parshas Toldos. When are you Maver Sedra Parshas V'zayis HaBracha? Erev Shmini Atzeres. Because Shmini Atzeres is when you lane V'zayis HaBracha. So be Maver Sedra Erev Shmini Atzeres. Very good. The Ari is going L'shitasai. Now came up a question. How about in Chutz La'aretz? In Chutz La'aretz, we don't lane V'zayis HaBracha on Shmini Atzeres. We lane V'zayis HaBracha the next day on Simchas Torah. When is the right time to be Maver Sedra Parshas V'zayis HaBracha according to the Ari in Chutz La'aretz? Some turn around and say, Well, we're going to make the Ari consistent. If in Chutz La'aretz you lane Parshas V'zayis HaBracha on Simchas Torah, then the right time to be Mavisedra is on Erev Simchas Torah. What's Erev Simchas Torah? Shmini Atzeres. So you know when you should do it? You should do it Shmini Atzeres, according to the Ari. Others say no. When the Ari said that in Eretz Yisrael, the right time to be Mavisedra, Parshas V'zayis HaBracha, is Erev Shmini Atzeres, that means Hoshana Rabbah. So what the Ari was saying was, when are you Mavisedra Parshas V'zayis HaBracha? On Hoshana Rabbah. So in Chutz La'aretz, you should also do it Hoshana Rabbah. Even though Hoshana Rabbah is 2 days removed from when you're going to lane V'zayis HaBracha, right? Because there's Hoshana Rabbah, then Shmini Atzeres, then Simchas Torah, and therefore Hoshana Rabbah in Chutz La'aretz is not Erev Simchas Torah, but it doesn't matter. The Ari said Erev Shmini Atzeres. And in Eretz Yisrael, Erev Shmini Atzeres is Hoshana Rabbah. So he meant to say Hoshana Rabbah. So in Chutz La'aretz also, you should be Mavisedra V'zayis HaBracha and Hoshana Rabbah. So those are the two opinions. But both of these opinions are only following the Ari. The Ari HaKadosh, who says that all year round you should be Mavisedra on Erev Shabbos, you shouldn't start the previous Shabbos afternoon. You shouldn't start Sunday. You shouldn't start Monday. No, you should wait all the way until Erev Shabbos. So that Ari that says that all year round you should start being Mavisedra on Erev Shabbos, the Ari L'Shitasai says that V'zayis HaBracha, you should also start Erev. Now we have a question. What does that mean? Does that mean in Chutz La'aretz Shmini Atzeres, which is Erev Simchas Torah, or does it mean Hoshana Rabbah? But that's all according to the Ari. How about according to the opinion that most of us follow, which is that you could start being Mavisedra already Shabbos afternoon the previous week? According to that shita, when should you start being Mavisedra V'zayis HaBracha? As soon as the Tzibur starts laning V'zayis HaBracha. When does the Tzibur start laning V'zayis HaBracha? A Shabbos before Sukkot already. They're already laning V'zayis HaBracha on Shabbos afternoon, on Monday, on Thursday. So according to that shita, as soon as the Tzibur started laning V'zayis HaBracha for the first time, you could start being Mavisedra V'zayis HaBracha. What's interesting is that the Mishnah Berurah did not mention all of this. So let's see what the Mishnah Berurah says. The Mishnah Berurah says in Ois Katan Yud Ches, Uve'yoyim Hoshana Rabbah, on Hoshana Rabbah, Yikra Shtayim Mikra V'Echatargum Parshas V'zayis HaBracha. You should do Shtayim Mikra V'Echatargum for V'zayis HaBracha when? On Hoshana Rabbah. That's following the opinion. Now, first of all, that's following the Ari, and it's following the opinion in the Ari that says that when the Ari said Erev Shmini Atzeres in Eretz Yisrael, he was focusing on Hoshana Rabbah, and therefore in Chutz La'aretz he should also do it on Hoshana Rabbah. Continues the Mishnah Berurah, V'im kara b'yom Shmini Atzeres, if in Chutz La'aretz you're Mavisedra V'zayis HaBracha on Shmini Atzeres, which is Erev Simchas Torah, lo yihifsid, you don't lose out. So what the Mishnah Berurah is doing is, the Mishnah Berurah is focusing on the Ari. The Mishnah Berurah is telling us that preferably you should follow the opinion in the Ari, who says that you should be do Shtayim Mikra V'Echatargum on V'zayis HaBracha on Hoshana Rabbah. But if you didn't do it on Hoshana Rabbah, you did it on Shmini Atzeres, which is Erev Simchas Torah, lo yihifsid, you're not going to lose out. That's also okay. But the Mishnah Berurah didn't tell me that this is all only in the Ari. But in the Mechaber, who said that you could be Mavisedra all year round as soon as they started laning the next Parsha, so then V'zayis HaBracha also. So someone will ask me, Halacha L'maisa, when can I start doing Shtayim Mikra V'Echatargum on V'zayis HaBracha? I'm going to tell him as soon as the Tzibur starts laning V'zayis HaBracha. The very first time that the Tzibur takes out a Sefer Torah, brings it to the Bima, and lanes V'zayis HaBracha, you could already start being Mavisedra, Parshas V'zayis HaBracha. Okay. Now let's go to Sif. No. I didn't finish Sif Zayin. Let's go back into the Mechaber here to the words of the Ramah in Sif Zayin. Says the Ramah, Haga. So, the Mechaber told us you don't have to do Shtayim Mikra V'Echatargum on the Yom Tov lanings. Now says the Ramah, Haga, V'chein ain't tzarich likrais HaHaftorahs. Is there some kind of Indian of being Mavisedra on the Haftorah? Says the Ramah, no. Ain't tzarich likrais HaHaftorahs. There's no Indian of Shtayim Mikra V'Echatargum or being Mavisedra in any way on the Haftorah each Shabbos. Nevertheless, says the Ramah, Noagu likrais HaHaftorah. There is a minig to taka lane the Haftorah, read the Haftorah. It doesn't say Shtayim Mikra V'Echatargum, But Nagu Likrais HaTorah. There is a minig to read the HaTorah of each Shabbos, before Shabbos. Okay, why? Says the Mishnah Berurah is cutting your test. Nagu Likrais HaTorah. Tama minig. The reason for this minig is very, very simple. Shema Yikru'u L'Machal Maftir. Because the minig back in the day was that whoever got maftir was the one who laned the HaTorah. We don't want the guy to come up to the bima like a clown and be breaking his teeth on the HaTorah. So we made a minig. Everybody should read the HaTorah before Shabbos. That way you're at least a drop prepared. You at least read the HaTorah once. So now if you get maftir, you'll be able to read the HaTorah decently. So Tama minig shem yikru l'makal maftir v'yeh baki v'ragel ba. Ma she'enkein b'parsha sheyamtiv shesham achazinu ha'koyrei. Now you might ask, so would that be a reason to read the Yom Tov laning before Yom Tov? No. There's about Kairei who's going to lane the Yom Tov laning. We're not choshish that any John Q citizen in Shul might suddenly be called up to do the Yom Tov laning. So that wouldn't be a reason to have to do Epis Shtayim Mikra V'Chetargum on the Yom Tov laning. Let's close out the Siman here. Let's go back to the Ramah. Final words in the Ramah. The Ramah says, Ub'Shabbos Shal Chasana. When there's an offer in Shul, Yikra HaHaftarah Shal Shabbos, if you're following this minig and you're reading Shabbos' Haftarah before Shabbos, which Haftarah should you read when there's an Afraf? You should do that Shabbos' Haftarah, the normal Haftarah for that Shabbos, V'loi Sois Osis, and not the section of Sefer Yeshaya Perek Samach Yud, that starts Sois Osis. What's the backstory over here? What's going on? We've learned about this previously. Says the Mishnah Berurah is Chav Shel Shabbos. If you have this minig to read the Haftarah before Shabbos and there's an Afraf, you should read the regular Haftarah. Ritzayin Loimer. What the Ramah wants to say is, Sheyesh minig beis mekoymos. In some congregations, there was a minig. Shekarim b'tzibur levad Haftarahs hasedra oid eze psukim me'Haftarahs sois osis. There was a minig in some places that when there's an Afraf in Shul, they would stick on a few extra psukim onto the Haftarah. Instead of just reading the regular Haftarah of that week, they would put on some psukim from Sefer Yeshaya, a section of psukim that starts with the pasuk Sois Osis B'Hashem. And the Mishnah Berurah says, why did they do this? Mishum diksivba kechasin yechahin pe'er, because in those psukim it mentions a chasin. So l'chvay the Afraf, l'chvay the chasin, they would tack on these psukim to the Haftarah. So does that mean that if you have the minig to read the Haftarah, you have to read Sois Osis when there's an Afraf in Shul? Says the Ramah, no. The Kamash below, the Ramah is teaching us the B'Shosh Karli Atzmai Haftarah ain't Zarech Likreis Elu Psukim. You don't have to tack on these psukim. Why not? Mishum do Matzav V'Shagar B'Fi HaKoil U'Baki Behen B'Loizu Akriya. Because in places where they had the minig to always lane Sois Osis by an Afraf, there were enough Afrafs in Shul that people heard this being laned all the time, and people were fluent enough in those psukim that even if you would get called up for the maftir and you would have to read the Haftarah, we're not worried that you're going to bungle up the psukim of Sois Osis. Uva Arba Parshiyos. How about the Arba Parshiyos? How about Parsha Zachar, Parsha Shkolim, Parsha Para, Parsha HaChodesh? Those all have unique Haftarahs. Should you make sure to read those Haftarahs before Shabbos? Yes. Yikra Haftarah, Darba Parshiyos. According to this minig that you lay the Haftarah, that you're supposed to read the Haftarah before Shabbos, so when it comes to the Arba Parshiyos, you should make sure to read those Haftarahs. We're going to stop over here. We'll continue next time with Siman Reish Pei Vav. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. The source of limud HaTorah should be Megan against Klal Yisrael. The Rabban Shalom should send Yeshua, Sefuras, Parnas, and Shadupim to all those in need. We should be Zayich to see the Bias Gal Tzedek. B'mehera v'yameinu. Amen. Be well.